Episode 21. Focus. Jack of all trades and master of none.
It's long been a fact that one of the biggest problems with people is finding their own particular road in life. There are so many things that any one individual can do and do well that he keeps running up one road and then another, and frequently trying to run up several at the same time. A human being is, in the beginning, like a broad and shallow river flowing sluggishly toward the sea. Most of his potential energy seeps away by covering too much unnecessary ground. Now, if you can take that individual and cut him a straight, deep channel, deep, not wide, he'll get to his destination in a fraction of the time. He'll lose practically none of his energy along the way, wandering all over the countryside, and the power of his energy will be multiplied by hundreds, even thousands. This is the channel every person is looking for. With so many possible areas in which to work and build, it's a real job sometimes to find the right one. Sometimes it takes many years. I know men who haven't found the road that was right for them until they were in their 60s. Then they've accomplished more in 5 years than they had formerly accomplished in 40. The trick is to make the decision, give it everything we've got, and stay with it until one of two things happen. One, you decide you've definitely made the right decision, or two, that you've made the wrong decision. Now, there's no problem if it's the first. If it's the second, you've just got to try again. But behind your decision, remind yourself that it's better to be outstanding at one thing than to be mediocre in a dozen or so. If you do one thing well, you can still dabble in other things as hobbies in your free time. But if you're trying too many things and not very successful in any of them, you won't enjoy yourself, you won't know any real accomplishment. Of one thing you can be sure. In studying the lives of thousands of successful people, whether it was raising crickets or running a little hole-in-the-wall restaurant or working as a salesman, accountant, attorney, or back in the shop, whatever it happened to be, these individuals made up their minds to do it as well as they possibly could. More than any other single thing, it is this attitude that invariably brings success. It's caring more for the destination than the hours involved. It's realizing that this attitude gets rid of competition immediately, and today this attitude is rarely found. Well, anyway, if you've been troubled by the old familiar human malady of running up too many roads and trying to run up more than one at a time, pick the one out of all of them which seems to offer the most promise and which you think you'll enjoy, forget all the rest, and dig a deep, straight highway to your goal in life. You'll be amazed at how quickly it can be reached, and the time will pass anyway. If you would reach a lot of places during your life, don't make the mistake of trying to reach more than one at a time. There's time enough for all of them.
Keeping your focus makes you competent. Now here's a simple, practical way to improve your focus.
Let go and grow. To climb, one hand must go above the other. So in life. We succeed not by hanging fearfully to the old, but by reaching out, taking new handholds mentally, accepting, welcoming, adapting new and better ideas. Hold fast, we fail. Let go, we grow. The choice is ours. It's good, isn't it? Hold fast, we fail. Let go, we grow. This excellent advice applies to just about anything you can think of, from raising children to succeeding at our job or business. It's another one of those seeming paradoxes that we have trouble learning. To have something, we must turn it loose, free it. If we try to cling to it, we lose it. To get, we must give. You know, this is something we should never lose sight of. As we get older, as persons and as businesses, we have a tendency to want to cling to the old, to be suspicious of anything new and exciting. Our attitude seems to be one of, don't rock the boat. This is a successful way of doing things. Let's stay with it. Let's hang on to what we've got and ride out a future we can't be sure of. But this attitude, in many ways, can only lead to decline and eventual failure. This is a turning of the back to life, and it's something life won't stand for. To grow, we must let go. We must force an attitude of increase upon ourselves, an attitude that accepts, that welcomes the new and maintains a healthy suspicion of the old. As one executive put it, if it works, it's obsolete. And while this is not true in the strictest sense, it's a marvelous attitude for a businessman to hold, because whatever it is, it will be obsolete before long. Now, this is something I think each of us should check ourselves against regularly, weekly if not daily. We should ask ourselves, what am I still doing the old way? Have I dug myself a rut or two that I'd be better off to climb out of? Be leery of the man who says, I've always done it this way, and that's the way I'm going to continue to do it. He's a human dinosaur, and he's headed for the boneyard. Here's another absurd old saying that you frequently used to hear. It was good enough for my father, and it's good enough for me. This is the man we ought to ask to use the telephone his father used, and drive his dad's old car, and wear his old clothes, and eat his food, and live in his house, and use his forms of transportation. No, what was good enough for my father is not good enough for me, and nothing is good enough. Everything is changing, and the wise man or woman is the one who takes a yes attitude toward life, who looks for and expects change and improvement in every department of life, and who knows that to climb you've got to let go with one hand in order to place it up above the other. You can't get to second base and keep one foot on first. You've got to let go to grow. If you're not eating or mowing your lawn or thinking or working or living better today than you were a year ago, you've got yourself a little problem. Maybe you're hanging on when you should be letting go.
In an earlier episode, we shared J. Paul Getty's concept of 4 kinds of people in the workforce. In this next segment that was first aired on Our Changing World, Earl reported his philosophy on 3 kinds of people.
I've come to the opinion, as the result of long observation and probably a good deal of prejudice, that there are mainly 3 kinds of people in the world. One of them is unfortunate. One of them makes a serious mistake. And the third is the most fortunate of all human beings. As I attempt to describe these 3 individuals, ask yourself in which category you believe you best fit. You can't really tell too much about people by observing them at their leisure, at the theater, on the golf course, at the beach, and so forth. I believe the best way to observe people is while they're working at whatever they've chosen to do. So here are the 3 main types. 1, the unfortunate. This is the person who lives a life of reaction. By that I mean he reacts to his existence. He looks upon his work as something unpleasant that must be performed in order to make a living. This unfortunate person is not happy in his work and is therefore impatient and discontented with his leisure. He's largely suspicious of other people and is constantly on the alert for real or imagined slights that he can complain about or criticize. He looks for reasons things cannot be done rather than for ways in which they can. As a worker, he takes secret delight in telling customers that the item they've chosen is not available, or that it's closing time, or that he's too busy. Living in constant frustration himself, he tries to find comfort in frustrating others, but only succeeds in thus rendering his own life more frustrating. He ages quickly, as though to say to the world that he wants to get through this unhappy life as quickly as possible. Number 2, the uncommitted. This person does a pretty good job. You really can't find fault with him, but you somehow sense he is temporary in what he does. He has one foot in his life and one foot feeling around outside of it, in case something better might come along. He's an idle wisher and dreamer, but does nothing to make them come true. He plays it safe with what he's got, but remains poised to jump if something offering more solid or attractive footing presents itself. He misses greatness in the life he has by hoping it will come along in something he does not have. And 3 is the committed. Here's the person who's found what he wants to do and abandons himself to it with everything he's got. He seems to know that it's impossible to become great at everything, and so intelligently makes up his mind to become great at that which it's been given him to do. Wanting nothing else, he takes delight and satisfaction in doing surpassingly well that which he has of his own free will chosen to do. This is the person who's largely responsible for the livelihood of everyone else. Putting all of himself in what he does and staying with it, he eventually succeeds head and shoulders above the great majority. Being interested and caught up in his days, he ages very slowly and, barring an unforeseen event, usually lives to a comfortable and cheerful old age. Instead of reacting to life, he acts first and makes life give him the rewards he sets in motion. Well, which of the 3 types are you? Possibly few people fit perfectly into one or the other, but one will generally dominate in their lives. Try committing yourself to what you're now doing and watch what happens.
The ability to focus keeps us on track, but don't get too wound up over that. Some people say that competent people are the ones that are cool, calm, and collected. But is that really a good thing?
Cool, calm, collected people do not necessarily make the best problem solvers, says Dr. Sidney J. Blatt of Michael Reese Research Institute. Dr. Blatt tested 100 persons on an electronic device which poses problems while at the same time recording physiological changes in the problem solver. And the people who just sat there calmly, showing no agitation, no increase in heart rate, got nowhere fast, whereas people like us, whose hearts thudded with excitement from a normal pulse rate of 72, some climbed to 136 times a minute, were quick with the answers. Perhaps if Albert Einstein had merely counted to 10 every time he got excited, we wouldn't have had the theory of relativity. I'd like to congratulate Dr. Blatt. I've always believed we operate better when we're excited about something. There's something wrong, in my humble opinion, with people who don't get emotionally involved in things. How many great books, paintings, musical compositions, or just about anything else worthwhile would we have if the people who produced them had remained calm, aloof, and cool? The best teachers are those who are excited and emotionally involved in their subjects. And it's the same with businessmen, scientists, parents, you name it. Excitement is a normal and natural thing. It's meant to help us. When our heart beats faster, it's pumping more blood so that we can do a bigger and better job. When excitement pumps adrenaline into our system, there's a reason for it. We have more power, more ability to meet a crisis. Getting back to the problem-solving thing, and speaking, of course, as a layman, I would think that the faster the heartbeat, the better the brain would operate, since it would have a faster flow of blood and oxygen caused by more rapid breathing. I'm sure that when young graduating doctors are given the equanimitas lecture to keep them from showing fear or excitement in front of their patients, it certainly is not intended to keep them from being excited about the subject of medicine. Who would get married if it weren't for the emotional and excitement involved? And this could be carried quite a few steps further. The happiest people on earth are those who are emotionally involved in what they're doing. This calm, cool, collected bit is all right for cows, camels, and turtles, but it'll never produce a great sermon, symphony, play, business, piece of architecture, painting, marriage, or the miracle of a child. In my book, when you lose the excitement and heightened feeling of emotion in what you're doing, you'd best look around for something else. In fact, this is a very good way to determine if what you're now doing is the right thing for you to do, whether or not you're excited and emotionally involved in it. Excitement is to the mind what heat is to the manufacture of steel. It gives it strength, flexibility, and adaptability. It helps us find new and challenging ways of fulfilling ourselves as human beings.
Is success worth it? Is success, as we've defined it here, worth the trouble, the effort, the commitment, the dedication, the perseverance? Yes. Yes, of course it's worth it. The time will pass anyway. Why not put it to constructive, productive use? Everyone benefits. Nobody loses. In every field of human endeavor, it's the successful men and women who make the important difference. They see growth and improvement as the natural order of things, and they can see themselves growing into new arenas of achievement and commensurate reward. Only that day dawns to which we are awake, wrote Henry Thoreau. What a pity it is for a human being with the gift of consciousness to take life and all that's connected with life for granted, to live each day as his or her due and quite likely find more to criticize than to be grateful for. Yet that's exactly how millions live out their lives. They often give the impression that they have a contract with forever, when it's really for only a handful of years between the bookends of mystery. Why not give it all we have to give? Why not make a thorough exploration of ourselves, and by so doing find what it is we have to add to the quality somewhere? To make life better, because we made an appearance here, to serve in the way we think we can serve best. Succeeding is so much fun, especially if it means moving several plateaus above the one on which you spent your youth. And succeeding brings so much of the world within the realm of experience for us. We can fly on the Concorde and take a trip on the Orient Express, cruise along the coast of China if you like, or fly over the poles. Succeeding brings the world within range, including much greater opportunity and success. We tend to perform well in the role in which we habitually see ourselves. Cruising around the Med could do wonders for our self-images. Who knows, we might find just the spot to build the loveliest little European-style American retirement village with all European capital. Well, there's just no end to the good ideas that some leisurely world travel might engender. Wandering around small, offbeat villages, who knows what we might see or pick up in the way of an unusual product that might go over big back in the States. It's important that we think in new directions from time to time. The more often the better. Genius has been defined as the ability to think in new directions. After all, wasn't that what typified all the great geniuses you can think of? The great artists, composers, writers, inventors. They were all inventors, all creators. They all thought in new directions. In her marvelous book, The Aquarian Conspiracy, Marilyn Ferguson writes, "If we're not learning and teaching, we are not awake and alive. Learning is not only like health, it is health. One can be just as bored sitting in the cockpit of a yacht anchored in the harbor at Portofino as sitting in one's office in New York City at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, but not if one is learning or teaching. Then boredom is never present. If you're at all like me, you require learning and teaching just about every day. I call it doing some work, but learning and teaching is what it amounts to. In my case, reading and writing, teaching. I need to know that I've done something worthwhile in order to fully enjoy my leisure time or a weekend. Perhaps that's the result of 30 years of working, but for me there must be a balance of work and play, both to be fully enjoyed. I'll never reach the age when I'm no longer interested in learning and putting what I have learned into language that others can understand, enjoy, and pass along. Now, what are the odds that a person following the guidelines of this program will actually succeed? I would say his chances of failure are virtually non-existent. The odds are overwhelmingly in one's favor. In fact, there's nothing else one can do but succeed. It's all in the goal and the planning that's subsequent to the establishment of that goal, if the person is a goal-oriented person. If the person's a river person, he or she is automatically a success as long as he or she is in that river. Remember the comment, the American people can become anything they want to become. The trouble is, they seldom make that decision.
We have a lot more in specific problem-solving skills in our next episode, but first, to wrap up this issue on our ability to focus, we have to be flexible in a fast-changing world.
You know, machines grow obsolete because they're unable to change. The times must change and will with ever-accelerating momentum. As they do, the machines of today will find themselves idle in the coming years, just as the machines of yesterday are idle today. But human beings are not machines, however fond they are of acting like them, and they can change. Never before in the history of man has it been as necessary as it is today for us to develop a new awareness of ourselves with respect to our changing world. We need to face the fact that in the world of tomorrow, jobs as we know them today will be radically different or eliminated entirely. So then, what can we do about it? We can take the advice of the former president of the University of Chicago, Robert M. Hutchins. We can learn. If we refuse to learn, if we insist upon acting like machines, we will find ourselves idle tomorrow. Every job is a part of a much larger organization. Organizations, industries don't die, they just change. The industry that once manufactured covered wagons is still here, but today it's making automobiles. Let's say that through a set of circumstances, a young man finds himself working as an attendant in a service station. He might wish he had done things differently, but it does no good to brood over the past. He's working in a service station today. He wants to get married and have a home and children, and to do this he decides that he must earn more money than he's now receiving. Now, the first inclination is to look around for a job that pays more. Before he moves to a different job, he should make certain that the move entails learning a good deal more than he now knows. If he can make the switch without learning anything new or very little, the chances are he'll be no better off than he is today. Instead of looking at his job as it is now, he should look at the industry of which it's a part. In this case, the petroleum industry, one of the world's largest. Without leaving his job for the present, he can spend his free time studying the business he's already in. Now, instead of being a service station attendant, he's a trainee in a major industry. He no longer has a job. He's got his foot on the first rung of what can be a fine and extremely rewarding career. By sticking with his studies and doing an outstanding job when he's working, he'll soon be able to marry that girl and have that beautiful home, and in time, anything else he wants. Learning is the answer for him, and it's the answer for us. The same thing applies to the boy working in the supermarket or the local garage as a salesman. Naturally, it's best to stay in school, for school is the best place to learn. But for those who've dropped out, the answer is the same. Learn. Learn all you can, and keep learning, whether you're 16 or 60. And you'll find your way in this changing world of ours, and you'll find it infinitely more interesting, substantially more rewarding. The minute a man stops learning, our civilization will begin to pass him by. He will be left a lonely and disconsolate figure in its wake. It's a decision each of us must make.
Next episode, Problem Solvers.
This is Earl Nightingale. Thank you.